This is a Fox News alert. Police are searching for clues to explain the mass shooting yesterday in Parkland, Florida. Expelled high school student Nicholas Cruz apparently murdered 17 people. That's the allegation, including teachers and students, before being captured off campus by police. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. We want to give you a quick update on the latest in the shooting investigations. We're going to go to Fox Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry, who is in South Florida tonight. Hey, Ed.
Tucker, good to see you. An affidavit out new tonight from the Broward County Sheriff shows, in fact, that the suspect told the police that he was the shooter, basically confessing to this, what everybody already knew. And I can tell you, yes, that death toll still stands at 17, far too high, but there were a lot of people here on the ground who thought it might climb some more because of the carnage they were seeing yesterday. And but for the fact that you had a remarkable number of people at the hospital behind me who worked through the night on people who were going through surgery in critical condition, and they basically saved their lives. And for the first time, we talked to those doctors today to tell us about what it was like when they called that code green, all hands on deck, to deal with patient after patient, as we're also getting harrowing experiences from students inside that high school. Listen.
We kept on getting phone calls. Are you ready to receive more patients? Are you ready to take this one? Are you ready to take that one?
I'm still scared. Like I just have that image, like that sound of the gunshots right in my head. Like I just hear it like constantly.
He stopped us and he got us into Chef Kurth with Chef Kurth's help into her classroom. I would say about 30 to 40 students into this teacher's classroom at the same time. And as a result of their heroic actions, they saved probably all of our lives, about 40 of us.
Listen to that last student talking about a janitor, an unsung hero in all of this, who realized that when the shooter pulled the fire alarm, there were about 40 barricaded students, as you heard there, who then rushed right towards the shooter. They didn't realize it at first. The janitor told them to turn around. They went into another room. They went to safety. They believe 40 more could have been killed. Again, 17, far too many. But I can tell you a glimmer of hope tonight, Tucker, which is that despite all of the patients last night who were in critical condition here, tonight there's only one in critical condition, and they're hopeful that it will soon be zero and that everyone will be getting out and going home very soon. Tucker.
Ed Henry for us in Florida. Thanks a lot, Ed. Decent person is horrified by what happened yesterday in Parkland. Every thoughtful person knows something horrible is going on in American society. Tragedies like this happen for a reason, and it probably doesn't have a lot to do with guns. The percentage of American households with firearms has dropped dramatically over the past 35 years. Meanwhile, the number of mass shootings has risen. If you're over 40, you did not grow up in a country like this. So the question is, what happened? It could be a lot of things. Far more Americans than ever before take psychiatric medications. Are outbursts of violence a potential side effect? We don't know, but it's possible. Does the social atomization of modern society play a role in all this? Well, spending life online does cause alienation. We know that. Last week, we interviewed author Johann Hari, who has studied the dramatic rise of depression in this country. As he pointed out, the most common answer to the question, how many close friends do you have, is now zero. A lack of meaningful relationships does cause despair. Perhaps in rare cases, it drives some to mass murder. Meanwhile, the nuclear family has collapsed nationwide. Does a generation of boys growing up without fathers pose a threat to this country? Of course it does. Why wouldn't it? Fatherlessness is one feature common to many mass shooters. Nobody's surprised by that. And what about men more broadly? As a group, men are not thriving in this country right now. Ignore the propaganda, and there's a lot of it, and instead look at the numbers. Men kill themselves more, graduate less, and of course commit pretty much 100% of mass shootings. It's a disaster, which for some reason our elites persist in ignoring. In March, this show will begin a month-long series every Wednesday on what is happening to men. We hope it'll be interesting. But why haven't we been talking about this for years? Now, we're not saying any of these factors caused the massacre we saw yesterday. We don't know that. We are saying we ought to do our honest best as a nation to figure out what exactly is going on here. But we're not doing that. That vital conversation has been drowned out and made impossible by mindless screeching about gun control, led by blustery charlatans in the media, you know exactly who they are, and also in Congress, whose only real agenda is moral preening. They aren't trying to solve the problem. Their aims are darker than that. Press a little bit and you'll see it. Sensible gun reforms, you hear that phrase a lot. You heard it all day today on cable news. What exactly does that mean, sensible gun reforms? Banning bump stocks? No. A piece on Vox.com today calls for a landmark gun control bill like the one Australia passed 22 years ago in 1996. That's the law that liberals are always telling you about. But the Australian law wasn't gun control, and it wasn't a voluntary buyback, no matter what they tell you. It was gun confiscation, a wholesale mandatory disarmament of the entire civilian population. Imagine what would happen if you tried that here in this country. America is not Australia for a bunch of reasons, including our history and our Bill of Rights. Imagine federal officials marching from house to house, seizing hundreds of millions of firearms from law-abiding citizens, and then fining and imprisoning those who resist. Vox approvingly calls this leadership. In fact, it's a recipe for bloodshed and civil war. It's nuts. Yet it is a common fantasy on the left. Dan Pfeiffer was a senior advisor to Barack Obama. Now he's a contributor at CNN, of course. Last fall, Pfeiffer wrote an article attacking his fellow Democrats for what he bluntly called fake moderation on guns. His advice was this: stop pretending to respect the Constitution and instead focusing on appointing judges who will nullify it. The goal? Gun seizures, ammunition regulation, the disarmament of the American population, a country where only the people in charge have guns and everybody else obeys. In the wake of yesterday's shooting, Pfeiffer's piece is going viral on the left. What he wrote is what they believe. So let's stop lying about this. The calls you're hearing today for gun control have nothing to do with protecting Americans from violence. What you're witnessing is a kind of class war. The left hates rural America, red America, gun-owning America, the America that elected Donald Trump. They hate them. Progressives are still in charge of most of the major institutions in this country, and they despise the autonomy of an armed population. They want collective punishment for the sins of a few. They seek to obliterate a core constitutional right rather than trying to mitigate its downsides. They call it gun control, but it's not. It's people control. For the left, voters who can't be controlled can't be trusted.